Like this show and want to make your own? Let me tell you about Anchor. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Now you can even add any song from Spotify directly to your episodes. The possibilities are endless for what you can create, whether it's music analysis, your own radio show, or something the world's never heard before. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Stay spooky. I'm Marnie Vinge, and this is Irioki. Join me and my friends as we explore the darker side of the Sooner State. All right, this is Irioki, and I'm Marnie Vinge. I'm here today with Jerry. Jerry, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Jerry. I know Marnie through her cousin.
Yes.
Dustin.
Who was here talking about UFOs not too long ago.
Ooh, I bet that's a good one.
Yeah, it was fun.
Okay.
It was really fun.
Yeah, and I'm just here. We're going to have a cool podcast, hopefully. Hopefully I don't come off too awkward. This is my first time.
Oh, no,
So, yeah.
I think you'll do great.
Sweet.
A lot of people, it's been their first time. So,
Okay.
So today what we're going to talk about is something that I didn't even know was part of Oklahoma history, and I was kind of excited when I found it out. We're going to talk about the Funhouse Mummy, who was Elmer McCurdy. Okay, so are you familiar with the TV show from the 70s, The $6 Million Man?
I'm familiar with it.
Like somewhat?
Yeah.
Like I've never watched it, yeah.
He gets hurt and then...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got a little description from Google. This is according to Google, which, you know, is all-knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Austin is an astronaut who is seriously injured, like you said, when his spaceship crashes. Handsome and athletic, Austin undergoes a government-sanctioned surgery, which rebuilds several of Steve's body parts with machine parts, making him cyborg-like. When Steve recovers, his machine parts enable him to have superhuman strength and speed, as well as other powers. With these powers, Steve goes to work for the Office of Scientific Information, battling evil for the good of mankind. So, it sounds like a pretty good show.
Yeah.
I would watch that.
Yeah. I think they're remaking it. Or,
Are they really?
I don't know. I've heard something.
Okay. That's
a reboot
very,
of some sort.
Yeah, that is very possible. Very possible. So in the 70s, in 1976, during the filming of an episode of The $6 Million Man, an art director went to move what he thought was just a funhouse prop. They were filming at Laugh in the Dark Funhouse, which was part of Pike Amusement. Let's see, what was the full name of that place? Pike Amusement Zone in California. So he went to move it thinking that, hey, there's this mannequin hanging from a noose over here in the corner and I want to position it somewhere else or get it out of the scene. And, well, it turned out to be something much more sinister. When he reached for the dummy's arm, who at the time was hanging from a noose, it tore completely off. But instead of finding what you'd normally find inside of a mannequin, which I guess would be plastic or foam or something like that,
Yeah.
He found human bone and what looked like beef jerky. So
they're at some place and there's a dead body hanging, but they're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were filming inside. The place they were filming inside was like a fun house at an amusement park. And so like they just thought it was like it
was a prop.
Yeah, it was a prop basically. And so the guy goes to move it.
That's
and
creepy.
like,
yeah,
it tears the arm off.
So who knows how long he had been hanging there?
Well, we'll find out. So, So it turned out through some investigation, they figured out that this mannequin was actually a real person named Elmer McCurdy, who was an Oklahoma outlaw. And McCurdy was kind of known for being a dumb outlaw. He wasn't real smart.
Okay.
There's a reason he didn't go down in history He was
Billy
no
the Jesse
Kid.
James.
Yes, exactly. So in 1911, McCurdy was part of a gang of outlaws, and they decided they were going to rob a train that was alleged to have $400,000 on it. Do you have a guess at how much money that would be in today's currency?
400,000. And then what time would he
It
have?
was 1911.
1911. Probably in the tens of millions.
Yes, $11 million.
Okay.
So, I mean, that was pretty, and I think, I can't remember how many of them there were, but that's still quite a lot to split amongst several people. So it seemed like a good idea, but it turned out that the merry band of criminals had jumped the wrong train, and all they wound up scrounging up was $48, some whiskey, and a watch. So they were not real happy with their find, but before the authorities could get to them, they all kind of split up, and Elmer decided that he was going to run off on his own, and on the way, he decided that he would take the whiskey with him. He hid in a barn not far from the site of the robbery, but he actually asked permission to do that first, which I thought was kind of weird, that he would ask permission after he's just robbed a train, but maybe he was trying to seem like he wasn't an outlaw, but also he was hammered at the time. He was very drunk. He drank all the whiskey on his way to the barn, and then he passed out in the barn thinking that everything would be fine and dandy. And when he woke up, he was surrounded by lawmen. So instead of turning himself in, he decided that the best thing to do would be to engage the authorities in a firefight. So that's what he did. And he was promptly shot and died. So not the smartest outlaw. And nobody claimed his body. It was taken to a Pawhuska funeral home where the resident mortician saw an opportunity for himself. Elmer didn't have any relatives to speak of, or at least that would claim him, and the mortician needed to advertise. So he embalmed McCurdy using the techniques that had been used on Abraham Lincoln. And at this time, I know a little bit about this from the time that I spent in funeral service at UCO. One of the things about embalming that was good at the time was, well, not at this time, but back during the Civil War, like when Abraham Lincoln would have been embalmed, was that it allowed bodies that of soldiers that were killed on the battlefield to be taken home and not decompose before they got back for a funeral or something like that. And one of the things that was really common, I don't know exactly how common, but you see it in a lot of photographs from the Old West, and sometimes they depict it in movies and TV shows, is morticians propping the outlaws up in their coffin outside of the funeral home. Have you ever seen that?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think there might be a little bit of that in like Tombstone, possibly.
Okay.
I think maybe, or maybe in the movie Wyatt Earp. But so that was not like incredibly strange for him to do this, but he decided that he would stand McCurdy up in the corner of the funeral home with a gun beside him inside his coffin. And after he did this, he decided he was going to charge people 5 cents a piece to see this guy.
Okay.
Which, I mean, I think this guy is just making the most of a business opportunity here.
Yeah, he has to do something.
Exactly. And he stayed in that corner of that funeral home for 5 years.
Oh my God.
Nobody came. Nobody wanted to say, "Hey, this is my whoever." Like, I don't want him here.
Or just like, "Hey, dude, that's creepy."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like kids and parents and everybody would come and see him, and it was just a whole thing. But then at the end of those 5 years, finally 2 men showed up and claimed to be Elmer's brothers. They wanted to take the body and put it to rest. At least that's what they told the mortician. They were actually James and Charles Patterson, who ran something called the Great Patterson Carnival Show.
Okay.
And they saw Elmer McCurdy, and they also saw a business opportunity. They were thinking, this guy is someone we can take and put in our sideshow and call him the Outlaw Mummy, and people will definitely pay more than 5 cents to come see this guy.
Definitely.
So, so old Elmer was a lot more famous in death than he ever was in life. So they took him on the road with their carnival show. They turned him into one of their attractions. People came from far and wide to see Elmer without knowing who he was at all. He was just called the Outlaw Mummy. And over the next 60 years, Elmer was bought and sold by various sideshows, circuses, wax museums, and haunted houses. So imagine that for a second. Like we've got like the sanctuary here, the haunted house. Up
Yeah, I've been there.
Okay, I've been there too. And I'm thinking about like the last time that I was there, and you know, they have props and stuff all over that place. And it's just like really scary to think that, because he traveled for 60 years and he finally in the 70s was discovered. But there were all these people up until 1976 that were seeing him in that funhouse and not knowing that he was actually a human.
Yeah.
Like, it's really weird.
No, that is really creepy.
Yeah.
How long does an embalmed body stay
the claim together? Okay, so the claim is back a long time ago they used to say, I don't know if they still claim this, but they used to claim that an embalmed body would be good forever, which is not true. I know that that it's not true, that it's not forever. But when they found him, he was he looked a little bit like waxy. Okay. Like his skin was kind of waxy. He was very emaciated. Yeah. Like most of him had decomposed, but he still had like skin on his face and looked enough like a plastic or wax dummy that nobody really suspected anything. Yeah. Until that guy went to move him. Ugh. Which is weird. Yeah. Yeah. So, I think the part that really creeps me out is that he was in wax museums, because when I was a kid, my family went on a trip to Colorado. We went it was in like the Colorado, New Mexico area. Okay. I'm not exactly sure where, but there was this wax museum that was like an Old West wax museum. Yeah. And I remember them looking kind of the way that he is described to have looked. And wax museums have always creeped me out anyway.
I've never been to one.
They're horrible. Okay. It's awful. It's an awful experience.
I saw that movie. I was like, I'm never going to go to one.
No, don't do it.
Paris Hilton.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm good with wax museums.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. They have one in Dallas at the, at Ripley's Believe It or Not. And I went to that one when I was about 21. Mm-hmm. I cried because I didn't want to go through. They have like two different sections. Uh-huh. There's like the normal section, which is like celebrities and presidents and stuff like that. And then there's the horror section, which is really bizarre because it's got like the Wolfman and Frankenstein and stuff. But then also I'm pretty sure that Adolf Hitler was part of it too. So it's really like really weird, and they've got all these weird red lights, and it's really creepy. And I know that I should probably like creepy things, seeing as how I'm doing this now. Uh-huh. But I am not a fan of wax museums.
Yeah, I can see why. It's just a little too like uncanny valley.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Which if you don't know what that is, go ahead and talk a little bit about that.
How would I? It's basically when you see. Here, I'll put it in terms of video games because that's where I learned it from. Yeah. So basically, when you how am I trying to put this? It's basically like when you see a human face that you know it's not real, but it looks so real, and it just kind of throws you off. Yeah. You can't really
like a weird distortion that happens in your mind.
And especially if you look in their eyes. Because you know, we're all humans. We know what a human. It's hard to trick the human mind with a fake human face because we know what that is. Yeah, we see people every day, so it's kind of yeah. That's probably a poor explanation.
No. I think that's a plenty good explanation. That's probably why I don't like wax museums so much. They're just creepy. Like it's just the idea of like it's just weird, like these fake humans that we're going to see. Like, I don't know, it's just strange. Yeah. But so wax museums, haunted houses, which haunted houses are big. I
love haunted houses.
I feel like you were with us one year when Dustin was insistent on going to a haunted house, and I was like about to have a nervous breakdown.
I don't think I went with. Okay. I don't think I've been with you guys. Okay. I went to one with him. It was just him and his parents. Okay. At the one
at Thunderbird.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that was the only one
that
I've been to with him.
I may have been there because I remember waiting outside because I wouldn't go in. And everybody made fun of me because I was like the oldest like kid, I guess, that I of the generations that were there. I was like the oldest. And I was like, oh hell no, I'm not going in there.
Yeah. No, I mean, I get it. I love Halloween. I love just that sense of of rushing, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, no.
A sense of excitement.
We were, last night, Johnetta and I kind of went on an adventure that I'm going to talk about in another podcast. And one of the things we were talking about was, why do we like to be scared? And I looked up a few articles about it. And that's like, one of the things is that the rush we get when we realize that we're safe again is almost like an opioid-induced high. Like it's,
definitely,
because it's like that feeling where you like come out of the haunted house and you're like, whew, it's over. It's like a high. And then the other thing was, we like scaring ourselves in ways that are safe.
Okay, yeah.
Like horror movies, haunted houses, things like that. Because it's not nearly as much fun to be scared, like, for real.
Yeah. I agree. I just.
Oh, it's okay. No, it's all good.
Yeah, haunted houses. I feel like, because I don't know, at least United States, you know, other places in the world aren't so comfortable, but I feel like people are just so comfortable and they don't really get, like, we're here, we're just so leveled out, and then I think people just love to find that way to get those peaks. Yeah.
Did you happen to watch Dark Tourist?
I don't.
You should check that out if you love Halloween.
Is that on Netflix?
Yes, it's on Netflix. It's this TV series. This guy named David Ferrier, he goes around the United States and all over the world, actually, doing what's called dark tourism, which is like tourism of places where like a murder has happened or a mass murder or a big disaster like Chernobyl, things like that. The Suicide Forest. He goes to like lots of places like that, and one of the places he goes is this extreme haunted house in, I can't remember where it's at, but like basically the way the guy does it, it's run by like one guy and he's got like a couple helpers, and he blindfolds you. You have to wear like a onesie or something like that, and I can't remember what the reasoning was for that part of it, if it was just like part of the humiliation, because he runs it on like, he breaks you down and like humiliates you and actually holds your head underwater, and like all of these things that are just very like way out there, extreme, and the only way you can make it stop is the other person that goes in with you, before they go in, they record a humiliating thing that you have to say about yourself, and you have to say it on camera, and that's the only way you can make it stop. And so it's very like, it's like a mind thing.
So like, you do this before you go to the...
Yes, you record that before you go, and I think before they actually take you into the like the haunted house part of the attraction, he talks to you for like 8 hours, and to get like to get in your head and stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I see what he's trying to do.
Yeah, exactly. He's ex-military, and so he uses a lot of the things that he learned in the military. Like, and to me, it was just like horrifying. But I can see how in a country where we feel so safe, that somebody would be like, yeah, I'm gonna pay $400 or however much it is
to be tortured, pretty much.
Exactly. Yeah, to like have that high and that experience, and even the guy who went into it with David, the host, David kind of tapped out pretty early because he was like, this is not fun. Like, this is not my idea of fun. And the guy who was like balls to the wall, just so sure that he was gonna make it all the way through, he only made it like halfway maybe, and he was like, no, I'm not doing any more of this is awful. And so you should watch it. It's really good. And
Dark Tourist.
Yes, and any listeners to this podcast, check it out, because it is one of my favorite things that they put on Netflix recently. So haunted houses. So back to Elmer McCurdy. He traveled the country this way in the haunted houses, the wax museums, the sideshows, and one of the things that I thought was really interesting was during this time that he was traveling around the country, he was bought by the people who were promoting a movie called, oh gosh, what was it called? I don't have it in my notes. I want to say it had something to do with drugs. It was like narcotic or like something like that. It was a movie in like 1933. And it was one of those movies where it's like trying to scare people into being afraid of crises and stuff like that. And anyway, he was bought by the people who were promoting that movie. He was stood up in the lobby of the theaters where this film was playing, and he was billed as a dead dope fiend. And they were like, the reason he looks so leathery and the reason that he's like orange and all this stuff was because he did drugs. And they're thinking that he's just a dummy and that it's not actually because he was a human being that has decomposed. Yeah. And so they even used him as like some propaganda type stuff. And then finally in the 60s or 70s, Laugh in the Dark Funhouse, which was part of Pike Amusement Zone, purchased him, and they put him in their funhouse. And it wasn't until 76 when Laugh in the Dark became a location where the $6 Million Man was being filmed, that the art director discovered this gruesome fact that this funhouse mummy was not actually a dummy. He was a real mummy. So then finally, in 1977, after this long ordeal, McCurdy was returned to his native Oklahoma, and on April 22nd, 1977, he was buried in the Boot Hill section of the Summit View Cemetery in Guthrie, Oklahoma, where you can still go pay your respects to him today. The medical examiner ordered that there be, it was either 2 feet or 2 cubic yards, 2 cubic feet or 2 cubic yards. There are differing accounts of this. Be poured over his grave to ensure that he was never disturbed again, so that he could never be made into a sideshow attraction any longer. And I actually went up there the other day. I decided I was in Edmond for something, and I did not realize how far Guthrie is from Edmond. And I just decided I was going to go up there. I went to the cemetery, and if you go in Summit View, it's off the road that it's off of. You turn right into the cemetery, and if you go straight, there's a little sign that says Boot Hill, and it's got an arrow, and it's kind of got like a vague direction that you're supposed to go. I kind of drove around for like 20 minutes in this little cemetery trying to find Boot Hill. And finally, if you go up that little road and there's a little circle drive, if you kind of go around that and then go to the left, like the sign points, and then keep going past there's like a house-like structure that I'm pretty sure is like the caretaking, whatever they keep in there. If you go past that, then there's another little tiny road and you can turn right on it. And on the left, after you turn right, is a little sign that says Boot Hill. And he and Bill Doolin are actually buried right next to each other under this little tree. And they're kind of like tucked out of the way from the rest of the cemetery, which I think is kind of funny because it's almost like they're like, okay, well, they were outlaws, so we're going to put them over here. And it's kind of away from like all of the people who have died in recent times and stuff like that. But it was pretty cool to see, and I got some footage that I'm going to eventually share in some way. And yeah, they both have flowers, and they each have a boot sticking up at the top of the grave, like mounted on a little stick that's like 2 boots that are like pointed toward each other. And so yeah, it's pretty weird. It was kind of cool, kind of weird to be there and know that, like, having researched this and read this whole story, and then be there at his grave was kind of cool. Yeah, like it was like the sideshow mummy is right here. Yeah.
My biggest question is, did he not stink ever?
I don't know. I kind of wondered that too, because like from working in the funeral home, there were certain bodies that would have an odor even after they were embalmed. But I know that the techniques for embalming have changed a lot. So whatever they did to him back then may have been like a lot stronger.
Okay.
Because there are probably like, I would have to ask Margaret about this, like how it has changed. But like I know that the chemicals that are used today are dangerous. So my guess is that the ones used back then were probably even more dangerous and probably a lot stronger.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I wonder if anybody was ever at any point like, hey, this dummy stinks. Like,
some smells foul.
Yeah, exactly. Like something does not smell right here.
Yeah.
Like this does not smell.
Yeah, I guess not.
Like a dummy. Yeah. So that's kind of interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good question.
Yeah. Because, I mean, that's usually like the first thing you notice when you go somewhere. It's like,
the smell.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That is a really good question.
Yeah, I would be pissed if I was him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would definitely come back and haunt.
Right.
Someone. I don't know who.
Yeah. I don't know if there's any accounts of him haunting anyone. I kind of almost feel like maybe he would have been like, hey, yeah, finally, I'm famous.
I could see that too.
Yeah.
For something.
Yeah. Because he was a failed criminal. He was not very good at that. There were actually some events that preceded the failed train robbery that were even more just him trying to do things that he was not very good at and not really getting away with anything. So, yeah. But I guess he's one of the lesser known outlaws from Oklahoma. I'm hoping to do some more episodes on some older cases like this, like outlaw type stuff. But yeah, so it's pretty interesting. I thought it was interesting that the medical examiner ordered that the concrete be poured over his grave to keep people from digging him up.
Yeah.
I thought that was it, especially as late as that was, like 1977, for them to kind of have that in the back of their mind that somebody might think that it would be really funny to dig this guy up and put him in another haunted house or something.
Yeah, or thinking he has something valuable on him.
Yeah.
Which I would assume by that point he didn't have anything valuable on him.
One of the things that they found when they took his body to, like, when they examined him and found out who he was and everything, one of the things they found in his mouth were a coin, I believe, from the 1920s and a ticket stub from one of the exhibits he was part of. And they were both in his mouth, and I'm not exactly sure. The coin, I would assume, was like the paying of respects type thing, but then it's weird that it was like 10 years after he died.
Yeah, it had to have been put there by someone.
Yeah, and the ticket, which makes me think that whoever put those in there, like, totally realized this was a human.
Yeah, and it makes you think, like, who knows who got hold of his body, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Some weirdos out there.
Yeah, there are definitely weirdos out there. Yeah, I think this is so fascinating because the idea that an attraction like as the haunted house could have something like this as late as the 1970s just blows my mind.
Oh yeah, definitely makes you think like, oh, maybe what did I touch when I went into the sanctuary?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm like, what is going on? Like, yeah, and the thing is, like, a lot of like, I imagine the people who ran Laugh in the Dark had no idea that this was actually a person.
You would hope.
I would hope. Yeah, I would hope. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't know.
Yeah, that's pretty unsettling.
Yeah. Pretty creepy. That's a fun Oklahoma crime case. But yeah, I think that's about it for this one. This is a little bit shorter one. But I thought this would be a fun case for you guys, especially since we've talked about some heavier subjects the last couple of weeks. But yeah, so Jerry, do you have any projects you want to talk about, or like Instagram that you want to plug, or anything like that?
If you want to follow my Instagram, feel free to. It's at jhertz. That's JAYHUERTS.
Yep.
That's
All right. Well, the only other thing that I've got is that we've got some fun stuff coming at you guys in the next couple months, or the next month or so, and I'll be making some announcements about that on the Instagram and on the podcast. Also, you guys are so awesome. Everybody who's reached out to me, the support has been really overwhelming, actually, and I love it. So if you want to send me a message, do it. It makes my day. Follow us on Instagram at Irioki. And if you want to send me an email, you can send that to iriokipodcast@gmail.com. And I read and respond to all of them. So don't be afraid. Send me an email. I love it. So yeah, that's about it. Got anything else?
Send her an email.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Keep it eerie, y'all.
Thank you.